Hello, this slide presentation is designed to help you understand more fully the changes that there will be to your study in Year 2 when you do some modules at Level 5. So we'll start by looking at what Level 4 involves and what more is expected at Level 5 and what they are. And then we'll think about the implications for study and for assessment. This might all seem rather confusing. The simple way of thinking about it is to think about 3 years spent doing a university degree. Each of the levels that the Common Awards system offers you through SWMTC corresponds to study at one of those years at university. And while many of you will only study at Year 1 of university, some will go on to do Year 2 and others will carry on to Year 3 level. Now, for reasons I won't bore you with, full-time university degrees during the first year of study are referred to as Level 4. Because SWMTC students are all part-time students, they take more than 1 year to complete Level 4 studies. And for this reason, all of SWMTC's Year 1 modules are at Level 4, but also some of the Year 2 modules are also at Level 4, and Human Identity is an example of one of these. Similarly, courses which would normally be studied at second year of full-time university study are referred to as Level 5. And students who are going on to study more than the 120 credits certificate, so that's people doing a 2-year certificate 180 and people doing a diploma, both for ministry training and independent students, go on to study these Level 5 modules during SWMTC's Year 2. And an example of this is the module Biblical Studies. When we come into SWMTC's Year 3, all the modules are at Level 5. If you wish to check any of these in the Durham documents, the links are all here. It takes SWMTC students 2 years to complete 120 credits, which is equivalent to a whole year of university, and gives you the Certificate of Higher Education in Theology, Ministry and Mission. Some of you will be training for ordination, but only having 2 years to train, and you'll be doing slightly more work, so you cover 180 credits in your 2 years of study, and you gain a Certificate of Higher Education in Christian Ministry and Mission, which is sort of halfway through second year of university level. And those of you who are training for 3 years generally will be registered to do a diploma of higher education in theology, ministry and mission, which is equivalent to 2 full years of university study. So you can download the appropriate document here. Now you're familiar with module learning outcomes, but each of these programs which Durham offer have their own general learning outcomes, split in the same 3 ways into subject-specific knowledge, subject-specific skills and key skills. And this slide looks at the subject-specific knowledge. Here you can see that whereas Level 4 is asking you to discuss intelligently a range of biblical texts, so that's kind of writing something that shows us that you've learnt something and you have understood it. At Level 5, there's more focus on detail on selected texts. So you're looking at perhaps a narrower range of texts, but you're looking at them in a greater level of detail than you did at Level 4. And there's a range of approaches to interpretation you can see in row 1 here. They're expecting you to be aware of different ways of looking at texts and to look at the significance of that for the use of those texts in the church and the world. Similarly in row 2, whereas at Level 4 you're describing competently some major aspects of the tradition. At level 5, you're asked to give a detailed account, and you're analysing significant developments. So there's greater analysis and greater detail. And similarly with the third row, which is dealing more with the reflection and ministerial modules. You're discussing knowledgeably at level 4, but at level 5 you are analysing theological, ecclesial and contextual understandings. When it comes to subject-specific skills, these are obviously to do more with the doing rather than the knowing. So at level 4, the skill is to identify context and genre and think about interpretation, whereas at level 5, again, there's this different approaches, a variety, communicating these and thinking about relevance and context more. Again, this focus on context. For the second row, there's at level 4, it's engaging in practices, and obviously then you're reflecting on those at level 4. At level 5, it's taking that further, developing existing skills but acquiring new ones. And in the third row, whereas in level 4 you draw on some of the methodologies that we teach you to reflect on what you've been doing and your experiences. That gets a little more analytical at level 5, where it's drawing on key aspects of relevant disciplines to begin developing a critical analysis of contemporary situations. So again, more depth, more focus, and a more analytical approach at level 5. Finally, when we come to look at the key skills, you'll see again level 4 and level 5 differ in the focus in level 5 on analysis. In the first row is added to that key skill. On key skill 2, you've got evaluating things in level 4, but in level 5 it's a critical analysis, and again communicating to different audiences, and also that developing that critical self-awareness of your own beliefs, not just some kind of awareness but being more critical about that. More responsibility for the tasks in row 3, whereas your tasks might be guided at level 4. In level 5 we expect more independent study from the student. So in summary, you can see that level 5 is asking for a more detailed level of learning than level 4, but also a broader and deeper grasp of different ways of approaching different forms of study and different disciplines within theology, so that you become more aware of differing contexts of readers or theologians and thinkers at different times and places across the global church, aware that they have different viewpoints and that is shaped partly by their worldviews, and alongside that a developing awareness of your own viewpoint and the assumptions and prejudices that go with that. So a good degree of self-awareness too. So that's thinking about your learning. Now I'd just like to say something briefly about thinking of learning outcomes for specific modules and the way that might influence the way you prepare your assessments. I've chosen for this exercise 2 modules that nearly everybody ends up doing if they study with SWMTC at level 5. The first of these is a level 4 Bible module, Introduction to the Bible, and the second is the level 5 module, Biblical Studies, which forms part of Year 2 studies for those training for ordination. I've put bits of the learning outcomes from these 2 modules onto this slide just to highlight some of the specific differences between them. I haven't put them all, you can look them up yourself if you want to see this in more detail. But you'll notice for the subject specific sections of the learning outcomes, they would be expecting you to show that you have detailed investigation and knowledge of some texts. Again, as I said, not the whole Bible, but to be able to show that you have some knowledge, and then ideally you will then have the awareness of different approaches and be able to transfer those skills to other passages. Similarly, with the subject-specific skills, there is a focus on being aware of different approaches, showing that you can apply different approaches to reading and interpreting the texts, and that you have an awareness of the kinds of questions that are raised and the arguments, the beginnings of an awareness of the arguments that there are over different passages and what they might mean and the reasons that might lie behind that in forms of translation or something like that. And similarly at key skills, as I pointed out earlier, you've got this analysis comes in at level 5. We're expecting you to show that ability to analyse different arguments, and hopefully the titles that we give you to complete for the assessed work in these modules will enable you to demonstrate these things. But when you're planning, once you've got your essay title or your resource subject, when you're planning, have a look at the learning outcomes, and those are the things we will be looking for when we mark it. So you need to have a look and see, am I demonstrating in what I've written, am I demonstrating that I have some detailed knowledge of this text and I can see how different scholars have approached this text? Am I showing that in what I've written? And if you're just, for instance, just using one commentary, then you're not really showing an awareness of approaches to the texts. You're just coming up with one expert. We need to see that you understand the different approaches that there are and why there are very good reasons sometimes why there is scholarly disagreement about how to read a text. So those are the kinds of things we're looking for in level 5. Now, if you're looking to show those things in your assessments, you're going to have a set of suitable sources and references. At level 5, we would expect you to be drawing on a wider range of sources. So, as I said, making sure you're not just using one detailed commentary, but actually looking for a wider set of sources, particularly with thinking about biblical module that we had as the example. And I would remind you at this point that there are lots of resources on the hub which you can get commentaries or other books on specific topics, and there's a very easy search engine there to look for those. I would also urge you not to just jump on the web, because web sources are sometimes very, very good and very detailed and very authoritative because they come from people who are experts in the field. But there's also a lot of stuff out there which is not so qualified or is just downright wrong. And unless you get something which is from someone who is associated with the university department in theology or ministry, then it's very likely that the source you've got is not really reputable enough to be using at level 5. I mean, I wouldn't use them at level 4 either, but certainly not at level 5. So look for some deeper, more academic or peer-reviewed, we call it, sources, ones where somebody has published something and someone else who is expert in the field has looked at it before it is published, so that we know that it's not completely cranky. Keep a careful note of all your sources. Make sure, as always, you're not plagiarizing, and that you've got sources listed for ideas, not just quotations, but ideas. And as you work through that, you will be able to see when you're writing whether you've got a sufficiently wide range of sources to demonstrate the learning outcomes. As always with our studies, I would urge you, if you have any doubts or questions about something that you're expected to do, please do ask us. In the first instance, if it's a module specific question, please ask your module lead. If the answer isn't in SAM, which is always the first port of call, then please do ask the module lead, or if it's something more general to do with the course, then do get in touch with me. Thank you very much for listening.